Hey there everybody, welcome back to my channel for this week's Let's Play of Higurashi When They Cry. I'm going to butcher this. Chapter 4, Himatsubushi? I apologize for my lack of content for the last couple months. I've been posting videos this week, but I think before that, the last video I posted was for We Happy Few, which was like back in, I don't know, November, December of last year. There's been like a really hard year for everybody, including myself. I haven't really been like in the headspace to record with all that's been going on in the world, but now they're moving back into spooky season. I have a couple games lined up that I want to try playing this month. I have some Phasmophobia content on my channel along with some Overwatch, so feel free to check that out. But I do know that my Higurashi videos are still fairly popular, and a lot of you were looking forward to Chapter 4 of this. I'm sorry it's been such a long time, but I was like, hey, what better time than now to jump back into it. So, here we are, Chapter 4 of Higurashi When They Cry. Let's dive right in. Himatsubushi, for you, the final mystery. The time-killing chapter. I now entrust you with all the mysteries hidden within Higurashi When They Cry. However comical it may be, if you have reached any conjecture, then you have passed. This final novel is a meager reward for you. Conjecture is impossible, you have the right to reject this story. So, I think starting from chapter 5 up, and I'll have to go and I'll have to check to see which chapters I'll need to buy, I think that's when we start to solve the mysteries behind all the murders and the craziness in Hinamizawa. So I think this might be like the last arc of the question series before we dive into like the answer arcs. So let's just go ahead and dive in. Cue the creepy music of the baby laughter. This arc includes choices that were added in the console version. Oh. Can lead to bad ends. We can have bad ends. Prompt choice. We're going to prompt choices and highlight the correct answers. Or do we want... Ooh. Show only content from the... Oh, this is hard. I wasn't expecting this. Let's highlight the correct answers, and then we can go back and we can do the wrong answers if we save and want to go back later. Who is the criminal, you ask? Don't we search for them in this story? Who is the criminal, you ask? Do you even know what the criminal did? Who is the criminal? Who is the criminal who will kill me now? Frederica Birkenstall? Midsummer, 1985. I misread the time and ended up arriving too early. Scheduled board flipped with a series of clacks. My flight to Sapporo was still a bit later on. Slept over an hour before boarding. I might as well close my eyes for a bit on that bench over there then. I came here directly from work, so maybe the fatigue from that was making me sleepy. Finding a suitable bench, I put my luggage on the seat next to me and settled down. Akasaka. I sighed like an old man. I had hoped to stay young forever, but had become splendidly middle-aged. Same. I'm getting there myself, Akasaka. Apparently the rumor that even people in the latter half of their 20s experience a decline in their physical strength wasn't a lie. I had been mind-numbingly busy at work lately, so I rarely had any time to myself. This might have been the first time I'd been able to enjoy a journey alone like this since I was a student. The reason behind this trip was to meet with an old friend. It's a bit strange to call him an old friend. In fact, it might be better to call him a bad one. After retiring a couple years ago, he moved to Sapporo, his mother's hometown. His mother passed away soon after, and he was now peacefully enjoying his second lease on life. His name was Kureodo Uishi. The detective, the old man detective, right? He was a former detective from the Primary Investigation Unit at the station Okinomiya Prefecture. To be honest, the only direct contact we ever had with him didn't last more than 3 days. After that, we exchanged New Year's cards, but never met again. Just to be the first time meeting him in 7 years. In other words, we met 7 years ago. In 1978. There's something I just had to ask. Talk to him about concerning that time. To explain that, it was impossible not to recall the incident that happened back then. That kidnapping, the details and resolution of which were resigned to darkness. Also, it was impossible not to recall a certain mysterious girl. My name is Mamoru Akasaka. It was a year that had been strangely hot, even though it was only June. Diddle-a-doo, diddle-a-doo. Now we do the backflash. Flashback. Early summer, 1978. Goodbye, teacher. Okay, bye. Watch out for cars. Pause. Ooh, I think I clicked out. Okay.
お友達の家に寄り道なんかしないように。
And don't drop in at an old friend's house along the way.
明日の教科書の準備は必ず寝る前にしておくんですよ。
I'm not gonna say it. Y'all can read. Clatter, clatter, clatter. The lively sounds of children running towards the hallway.
でさ、つってんだぜ。そんなの俺持ってるわよ。いらねえよ。
The unique high-pitched voice of youth. The energetic shrill of the cicadas went completely unheard by their ears. Children, returning home from school, split off one by one from their groups of friends as they went through intersections in the residential area. Even though there were several of them in a group as they left school, as they got closer to their homes, their numbers dwindled. That's why the fewer friends you were walking home with acted as an indicator that you were that much closer to your destination.
じゃあな、会うわよ。また明日ね。
He finally parted ways with his last friend. A van was parked at a bend in the road. Window was open, the sound of the radio leaking outside. Must have been the news or something.
たため、道路交通法違反、公務執行妨害で3名を逮捕しました。一連のhinamizawaダム建設反対をめぐる運動は、先月の機動隊との流血事件を境に過激化の一途をたどっており。
So, wait. So, usually, I think we're usually a little bit ahead in the storyline, because usually when we jump into Higurashi, we play as Keiichi, and he comes to Hinamizawa years after the dam construction project had that murder. So, this says that the murder just happened, or the dam project is going on now. Last month, they just clashed with the riot police.
警察では過激
So I
な
think
活動家
I
によ
think
る
we're back
次の
further
事件
than
を
we
警
usually
戒
are
し
in
てい
the
ます。
timeline. Maybe by a couple years.
先週も検察庁庁舎前での犬飼建設大臣への直訴事件があったばかりで。
The boy's ears perked up at the mention of the name Inugai? Inugai? Sorry. It's been a while. At that moment, a man's face peeked out suddenly from the window of the van. His behavior was a little different than that of a man looking around to see if there was any incoming traffic before he opened the door of his vehicle. His eyes meeting suddenly with the unfamiliar man, the boy panicked slightly.
ウグイス OK。
Nightingale.
ひばり OK。
Oh, these are like code names, maybe.
前後2ブロック確保した。いいぞ。
Man in the passenger seat whispered quietly. Nodding in acknowledgement, the man opened the door and stood before the boy.
君、犬飼俊樹君？
While asking that, the man peered at the young boy's name tag. Toshiki Inugai. Name was written plainly there. Phone rang for a third time. If he reached out, he could easily pick up the receiver. However, he was concerned that if he picked it up before he even finished ringing once, whoever was on the other end of the line would think him a fairly cheap person. That's why he normally never picked up the phone until the third ring. Even he thought it was a worthless habit. However, his thinking that there isn't much meaning in waiting for just 3 rings, when waiting for 5 be alright, was very much a reality. His mind filled with such trifling thoughts. Picked up the phone after the third ring and finished, its reverb dampened by his action.
はい。もしもし。もしもし。
He knew that sometimes due to a malfunction at the switchboard, calls didn't connect well. At those times, it was best to hang up and let the person on the other end call again. Thinking that, the moment he began to hang up the phone, he sensed that he was definitely connected after all, and he felt the presence of the person on the other end of the line keeping silent.
もしもし。
There was no way that they didn't hear his question. What was the meaning of this? It wasn't like he didn't know that people could use silent calls to harass others. However, he never received a call like that until today. Maybe he was just lucky before, but he didn't believe that he would receive such a call on this phone. There were no direct calls to or from this line. Everything had to go through an operator. Therefore, it got really quiet. Therefore, there was absolutely no way the call would be connected unless it was verified there was somebody else on the other end of the line. So I didn't understand how to deal with this silent call and instead settled into confusion.
あんた、誰だか知らないが、用がないなら切るよ。また、かけ直してください。
Intending that to be its parting line, he made to slam down the receiver. It was at that moment the person on the other end spoke for the first time.
あなたが名乗ってくれないから困ってんですよ。
Kidnapper.
あんたが犬飼大臣じゃないなら、さっさと電話を切ってください。
Couldn't help but be surprised by the extremely strange voice on the other end of the line. Is there a human alive who could speak with this hoarse and metallic voice? No. This was a voice he had heard somewhere before. It was the kind of voice that was on those lowbrow documentaries that they'd use when they wanted to hide the identity of a speaker, wasn't it? The voice he was hearing over the line was exactly like that.
あんた、誰？
だから、それはこっちが聞いてるんですよ。あんた、犬飼大臣じゃないの？
He, Inugai, hesitated to answer. Unable to discern the intent of the suspicious phone call, he had a vague feeling that something was off. Well, we know it's a kidnapper because it was titled as such. I guess he hasn't introduced himself as the kidnapper yet. Thought about hanging up the phone and asking the operator who initiated the call. However, he forced himself to restrain that urge and, for the time being, chose to state his name and listen.
そうです。犬飼です。名乗りましたよ。
私の名前なんてどうでもいいんです。まず、あなたがどういう立場に置かれているか、それを認識するところから始めましょう。あなたは今、自分の席で電話をしていますね。では、あなたの席の右側の一番下の引き出しを開けてみてください。
Lowest of the drawers on the right of the minister's chair. There was a lock on it, not enough to function as a safe, but nevertheless it was a drawer that contained some valuable things. That's why Inugai thought that the person wanted some of the important information contained within that drawer.
すまんが、開けるつもりはないよ。
How does he know where the drawer is?
自分の名前も名乗れん
The
や
calls
つ
are
の
coming from
言い
inside
なり
the
になる
house.
言われはない。
Open your drawer.
引き出しを開けてくれないなら、この電話を切ります。きっと、後悔することになりますよ。まずは引き出しを開けてから考えてもいいんじゃないですか？
Inugai didn't like following orders from the suspicious person one bit. However, he was concerned about what the man said about regretting it, so he decided to open the drawer. Took the small key he kept stowed in his wallet and unlocked the drawer. His hand stopped right before he opened it. If there was a bomb inside, and it would explode if the drawer was opened. That delusion took hold of him. Quelled that instinct and opened it.
開けてくれましたか？そこにあるものが何かわかりますよね。
これはどういうことだ？おい。
どういうことか説明する必要なんかない
What did
で
we
す。
find in there? So the drawer was locked. Somebody unlocked it and put something in there
時間を差し上げますので、
to scare
少
him?
しお考えください。また後ほどこちらから連絡いたします。それでは失礼。
おい待て。もしもしもしもし
Call had already ended. It would not change no matter how much he yelled at it. Even still, Inugai, without realizing that, continued yelling into the receiver for a while. Drawer was still open. Top of the folders crammed into the drawer, it lay there. Toshiki. Oh, is it his name tag? Yeah, okay, written in plain lettering on a grade schooler's name tag, just lying there. Enshrined there, completely out of place, as if it were cowering. So somebody kidnapped, I'm assuming his grandson, or son, maybe, I don't know, and then left him the name tag as like we got your kid kind of thing. It's been a hot minute since I played this. In case y'all are interested in watching it in anime form, they just started up a remake of the anime series. I don't know how good it is yet. They just started it. I'm like on episode 2 or whatever. But I would definitely recommend that you check that out. If you like the first 3 arcs that we did previously, check out the anime series because they just started that up. It's cute. I like this. I remember some of these cutscenes. Some of these characters, I have no idea who they are.
悲しみも生きる私になる過ちも傷跡もそのまま受け止めよう癒されることじゃなくてただ明日を信じるなら
That was a really cool opening. I wonder if that was maybe console specific. Could be. We also I should mention this every time I do a playthrough. So this has the 7th mod on it. So it's got like some new character sprites. It's got some interesting translations and stuff. I should link it down below for those of you guys that want to play because it's been like super helpful. It makes it pop. The artwork is a little bit cleaner. Anyway, let's dive right into it. Remember Yuki? This picture. This is where I first proposed to you. Brief moment before you nodded back, you probably won't know just how much it seemed like an eternity to me. Yes, would have never thought that amount of time could feel like an eternity. Compared to how long I had waited for you to propose to me, it was the moment I met you until today. Compared to the time I've spent since I was born, it might only be a brief period, but they were definitely precious, beautiful days that deserve to be called an eternity. That time continues even now. From now on, I wonder if it'll be a boy, or maybe a girl. Either one is fine. Boy or girl, either way it's living proof that we love each other. If it's a boy, we'll name it after you, Mamoru. If it's a girl, we'll put the Yuki from my name and hers. Thinking about names is so fun that in the end we still haven't decided yet. Still time to puzzle over it. Not that long of a time, actually. You see, Yuki, something I have to apologize for today. It's about your job. Sorry. Looks like an annoying bit of work has come up. In the worst case, I might not be able to be there for the delivery. It's fine. They're very important. So I think we're talking as two separate people right now. They're not subtitled, but I think we're talking about Detective Akasaka from the beginning and maybe like his wife. What you do protects the way we live. Compared to you, it's nothing. Please, go ahead. When you return, I'll be waiting here with our child. Thank you. Also, I'm sorry. Please don't apologize. If you're guilty about it, then you can just atone. If I atone that much, no matter how much... I have no idea who I'm reading for, by the way. I'm just going to read the lines in my normal voice. If I atone that much, no matter how much money I have, it won't be enough. Hee hee. It's a joke. Now go on. I left the room, I bumped into an elderly man. He was Yuki's father. In other words, my father-in-law.
お父さん邪魔する気はなかったからな廊下で待たせてもらったよ聞き耳を立てるつもりはなかったがユキエはああいう娘だ何があっても自分が君の枷になることを
Okay,
望むまい
so Akasaka isn't going to be there possibly for the delivery of their baby because of work.
これまでユキエに様々な犠牲を強いてきました出産という人生の節目にまで彼女に犠牲を強いることを恥じます
君が本当にそう思うなら仕事が終わったらユキエのために時間を割きなさい君が仕事を投げ出して付き添ってくれるよりもそうした方がきっとユキエも喜ぶだろう
ありがとうございます
君がとても大切な仕事をしていることは私もよく知っている自分の仕事を誇りに思いなさいユキエは君が見事難題を解決して凱旋するのを楽しみにしている
はい
Jumped into the taxi that was waiting outside. Prior to the time when I first got here, the numbers on the fare meter had grown considerably. It seemed the modest time Yuki and I had spent together wasn't so modest from an objective point of view.
待たせてすみませんやってください
いえいえでは参りますよ
Taxi jerked as it changed gears to accelerate. Soon burying the hospital, my wife was behind a throng of buildings. Sorry, getting used to reading the text again. If it was to end up as a really troublesome ordeal, I probably wouldn't be returning for quite some time. To call a rookie like me, and on top of that, one who's off duty, it seemed that the section chief was calling for all hands on deck. The veteran upper brass gathering on an emergency basis happened occasionally. It was the first time, though, that I had experienced everybody gathering together like this. Whatever was happening, there was no doubt it was going to be something novel. right when my wife was about to give birth. I wanted to spend the time to curse my misfortunes. I'd be here all day. Even the verdant ginkgo trees lining the street that always brightened my mood seemed to lack some of their usual luster. Eventually, the government office came into view. Briefly holding my breath, I let the feelings of tension course through my body once again. I had to remember the work I was doing was important, necessary, and difficult. I composed myself and sharpened my wit. Ready. Taxi stopped in front of the building. So I wonder if maybe we're being called away because of the kidnapping. The Prime Minister's
市長全員揃いました。
son or grandson was kidnapped.
赤坂君ブラインドを下ろしてくれる？
Blinds were usually closed when they needed to use the projector or if the discussion was going to contain some particularly disturbing content. Blinds closed with a satisfying sound, darkening the interior of the room. Immediately, the inside of the room was completely drained of the pleasant morning atmosphere, leaving behind only the cold illumination of the fluorescent lighting. After the supervisor ensured that everyone was present, he nodded to the section chief once again. Everybody on the edge of the seats, the chief stood up solemnly and began to give a report.
推定48時間前、建設大臣の孫にあたる建設省幹部の子息が誘拐された模様です。
Okay, so Inugai is the minister of construction, I guess, for this Japanese prefecture, and now his grandson's been
建
kidnapped.
設大臣は事態を穏便に済ませるため、警察へ通報せず要求に応じるものと思われます。
Seeing that approximately 48 hours earlier, the Minister of Construction's grandson and those of his senior staff members were kidnapped. Reason why it was phrased that way was because the person in question didn't admit it had happened.
大臣宅の通話を監視した結果、都外からと思われる不審な電話が数件確認されました。誘拐された子供は病気療養中となっているが、通院の形跡はなく、周辺での目撃例もなく、その他いくつかの理由から事件発生は間違いないものと断定しました。
Okay, so the minister didn't even tell the police. They just kind of figured it out on their own, I guess. Here they omitted the details that brought this incident to light. If you think about it a bit, that meant that before this incident happened, minister's residence had been under surveillance already. I won't use the word spied upon. Of course, there wouldn't have been court approval for this, and it would have been very hard to explain to ordinary citizens. However, if there was an effective method to catch wind of incidents like this before they got worse, I'd like for you to understand that dealing with these cases before they become a problem is the job of the Public Safety Division.
なぜ警察に通報せず要求を鵜呑みに？大臣たる者が警察を信用できないってんだから。
Well, to be fair, y'all are
末だね。
spying on him.
犯人グループは誘拐初期に自分たちが大臣の生活をかなり高度に監視していることを警告し、その証拠を示した様子です。大臣が屈服し、警察への通報も思いとどまるほどの何か
Okay,
ですね。
so now I'm connecting dots here. So this is the Minister of Construction.
警察へ通報
So
すすぐにわかるぞって。
I'm wondering if this kidnapping has to do with the dam construction project, because maybe the kidnappers are like
大臣
protesters.
の近辺に内通者がいる。
I'm just trying to wrap my head around the storyline where we are so far, because we're back further than we usually are. Possible there's a mole close to the minister. So of the higher-ranking members who seem to have experience with this kind of thing let out deep sighs.
犯人グループの目的が要求にあるのか、事件そのものにあるのかは不明ですが、いずれにせよ、国益を脅かす事態に発展する可能性が極めて高い。
Their goal was to simply have their demands met for monetary gain. That would have been nice. However, if this was some politically motivated shakeup, things would get a lot more complicated.
被害者の協力がないということは、脅迫内容も要求も一切不明ということか。
本件は内通者の水準がかなり高いと思われるため、当室のみの極秘捜査とします。また本件は本日より最優先事項となり、これまでの通常業務を一時凍結して対応します。よろしいですね。
After that, the supervisor continued on, tactfully explaining our course of action. If this incident were to become public, it was possible that the minister's political life would be over. I'll spare you the explanation of how the rest of the dominoes would fall, but in the end, support in the Diet would decline, followed by a no-confidence vote in a snap election, and might even expand communist influences. In other words, we want to handle this delicately.
川崎と佐伯は大臣宅子供宅の通話を24時間監視。大臣の動向を探れ。動きがあるたびに逐一報告せよ。 残る各職員は担当団体ごとに本件との関連を調査。最近動きが不穏な特殊ラインは集中的にやれ。それから外国勢力も水を漏らすな。
I've experienced one or two unamicable situations before. This, however, was the first time I've seen things get so hectic. Several sophisticated conversations were progressing without the involvement of a rookie like me. Didn't intend to be timid, but I couldn't hide my confusion at this unfamiliar situation.
では柿内に行ってくれ。で、赤坂君は。
That's us, Akasaka. Snapped back to alertness upon hearing my name called.
はい。赤坂君は大臣に陳情してきた環境保護団体関連を調査してくれ。中でも新聞でも騒ぎになってる南沢ダム建設反対の団体をよく調査すること。住民団体の仕業とは到底思えないが、すべての可能性を潰していかなくてはならない。
Right. So we circled back to Hinamizawa now. That's the connection.
Hinamizawaダム
直接現地へ行った方がいいだろう。現地県警で情報を取れ。かなり過激な団体らしく、向こうの公安でもマークしてるらしいぞ。
わかりました。現地へ出向します。
奥さん、出産控えてるんだって？こんなタイミングで申し訳ないけど、協力頼むよ。時間がかけられないから、人海戦術で総当たりで行くしかないんだ。
ええ、わかってます。家内も自分の都合が私の仕事に触ることを嫌いますから。
すまん、ありがとう。それから、川崎くん、佐伯くん、君たちの応援には。
I didn't want to take a business trip when my wife was about to give birth. Even if I was a little busy, as long as I was in Tokyo, I could head to the hospital right away. On assignment, though, that would be difficult. Even so, I knew the work I was doing was important and fully understood that I was in no position to be so selfish. I'd have to make it up to my wife for having to be away at such an important time. My wife, Yuki, would probably forgive me with a smile. The only thing she would hate doing would be holding me back. My male ego, though, at least wished she would have tried to stop me. Sorry, Yuki. I don't mind if you always complain to our child that their father couldn't come to the hospital when they were born because he was too busy with work. At least he's apologetic about it. He's not like being an asshole. Next day I took the bullet train to Nagoya. From there transferred to the train to Prefecture. Getting to my destination by land took several hours. If I was traveling by air in that amount of time, I could probably get as far as Hong Kong. Prefecture was by no means close. I never sat in first class except for work, but whenever I did, the seats seemed stiff. Closing my eyes, I mentally reviewed the documents I read yesterday. Group under investigation, the Onagafuchi Defense Alliance. So, which chapter we read about the Onagafuchi Swamp? Because we read about that. Maybe it was chapter 1, I think, was titled Onagafuchi. Doesn't that mean like ogre? Or like demon or something? I'll have to go back and check my playthrough, but we've definitely read about Onagafuchi before. Even limited to what was written in the newspapers, there was bloodshed that occurred during a clash with riot police. Interference with a dam construction? Too many to count. Number of petitions, sit-ins, and direct appeals to relevant organizations were innumerable. As an extension of that, there was a direct appeal to the Minister of Construction the other day.
これがそもそも今回この団体を調査することになったゆえんだ。
Land that they lived on was going to be submerged, so it was no wonder they would go into a frenzy over it. Even given that, though, could they really be capable of doing something like that? Kidnapping the Minister of Construction's grandson in order to halt the project? Well, they ended up, like, killing one of the lead workers there, I remember. So, like, yeah, kidnapping is, like, here, and murder is more, like, up there. For my take on it, I had serious doubts. This kidnapping plot was extremely sophisticated and complicated enough that it was believed that there was some political backing. It wasn't something that could be pulled off by some group of local protesters. Well, just like the chief said, the plan was to eliminate all possibilities. While I'm in the police's reference room taking my time investigating, the higher-ups in Tokyo would probably solve the case, without my involvement entirely. Even if that was true, I couldn't regret being away from Tokyo while my wife was ready to give birth. This was work. There was really nothing that I could do. Ding dong. The announcement that we would be arriving at our destination soon snapped me back to wakefulness. Gogura Prefecture, Public Safety Division.
鬼ヶ淵死守同盟ですか。
ええ、
地元ではかなり賑わせているようです。
The Prefectural Public Safety Department already had the documents and a cup of tea, ready and waiting for me.
早い話がダム反対の住民運動なんですが、事実上水没地域の住民すべてが決起したと言っていいでしょうね。死守なんて古風な言い方が示す通り、相当の決意と覚悟を持った連中です。そこら辺の温和な住民団体とは一線を画すと思っていただいた方がいいですね。
The stack of papers they had prepared for me in the document room was by no means thin.
発足当初はごくごく平均的な住民運動だったんです。それがいつだかの流血事件を境に急にヒートアップしまして、今では暴力主義団体かそれに準じるくらいの過激な勢力に成長したと言えますね。
Violent organizations usually indicate ones that enforce their own ideology without regard to the democratic process. Breaking that down, many of those organizations held extreme left revolutionary ideologies. Considering that, I couldn't help but be surprised that a citizens group would end up going this far. Radical citizens movements happen occasionally. It seemed, however, that this group was nothing as trifling as that. It seemed that I would have to reconsider exactly what this Onigafuchi Defense Alliance was.
鬼ヶ淵死守同盟が要求、つまりダム計画の撤回を求めるために行いうる
So,
活動範囲は
if
ど
I
の程
remember
度でしょうか。
correctly, the idea behind the Hinamizawa Dam was the country was like, we're going to build a dam here, your whole town is going to be flooded, here's like a severance package to like pick up and move somewhere else. And I think that's why this defense alliance and all the people were up in an uproar, because like they didn't have a say in the matter and they were just going to flood their whole village. Kidnapping of the minister's grandson was classified. It meant, of course, I couldn't tell the prefectural department about it either.
ご存知の通り、先週あった犬飼建設大臣への直訴事件では逮捕者も出ています。危険性は十分にありますね。
I skimmed over the list of the criminal records related to the Onigafuchi Defense Alliance recorded in the documents. Contents were all violent, not giving me the barest hint of a feeling that these people were trying to uphold the law.
具体的に教えていただけますか。
Chief opened up a manila envelope, fished out several unorganized sheets, and spread them out on the desk.
建設現場への襲撃事件が最も多かったですね。初期の頃、電源コードの切断や錠前の鍵穴に石を詰める、投石による事務所の窓ガラス割り等の軽犯罪が頻発していました。
Of course, what really happened first were things like demonstrations, sit-ins, and distribution of pamphlets, lively but democratic forms of protest. However, then the demonstrators and police clash, which started a riot, leading to numerous injuries and arrests. It was from then on that the Onigafuchi Defense Alliance, like their name implies, began to take a more demonic form of resistance. Yes, okay, so it did. It meant demon. Like in the first chapter, they talked about like the myths of like the demon swamp or something. I don't remember. It was titled the Onigafuchi chapter, though. I
襲撃
remember
が
that.
度重なれば地元警察による警備強化がなされるのでは。
それは警戒はしたでしょうね。でもあちらは地元ですから、闇に乗じて忍び込まれたらお手上げでしょう。
Might as well label the entire map of Hinamizawa village around the dam construction site enemy territory. No matter how alert the police were, the locals would just show them exactly how easy it was to sneak around.
警察が警備を固めてからは、むしろ挑発されたように過激化が進みました。ほら、この辺りからだいぶヒートアップしてるのがお分かりになります？
事務所の放火、建設重機の破壊工作。破壊？まさか爆弾でも？
Destruction? They've been destroying things?
いや、まさか。
You're gonna put their whole town underwater.
連中ですね。タンクに核砂糖を放り込むんですよ。あれやられたらエンジン焦げついちゃいますから。
Even in Japan, it seemed there had been people doing that to the vehicles of occupying forces right after the war. Compared to misdemeanors like breaking windows, it was extremely violent and aggressive.
そこまでやられたら地元警察の面目は丸つぶれですね。
放火はさすがにですね。それで地元警察が24時間体制の人員を大幅に増員しまして、それで建設現場への襲撃は一段落したようです。
He used the words quieted down, but that was still smack down in the middle of the list of crimes.
で、連中ですね。現場への直接攻撃が難しくなったとしたら、今度は個人攻撃に切り替えました。 最初に狙われたのが工事事務所の現場作業者でした。
After that, there was silence. What was being described to me was guerrilla war fought in the jungle. Threats and violence against the workers. Harsh words and harsher rocks were thrown.
かなりの告訴がされているのに逮捕者があまり出ていませんね。
そりゃそうです。第一、目撃者なんかいないんですから。それどころか現行犯だったにしたってアリバイがポンポンポンとできちゃうんです。
それはどういうことですか？
例えばですね、あなたがひなみ沢で歩いていて、ある男にナイフで刺されたとします。あなたは相手をよく覚えていて、名前も住所も特定できてるとします。ただしナイフには指紋がなく、物的証拠だけがない。まあありがちな傷害事件だと思うでしょ。でもひなみ沢じゃ完全犯罪なんです。
So, remembering back to, I believe it was the Watanagashi chapter, chapter 2, when Keiichi was first meeting Mion and Shion for the first time, I remember that there was like a whole section of the chapter about this. People in Hinamizawa back each other up. So, we remember like there was that episode where Keiichi was like surrounded. He had like knocked someone's bike over, I think, and he was about to get bullied by like those three guys. And Mion and all of the Hinamizawa residents like circled around them and were getting ready to like beat the shit out of them. So in Hinamizawa, we remember that everyone's got this tight-knit closeness where like even if they don't know you, but you're from Hinamizawa, they're all in on it. Everyone, the entire village, they're all in on it. To protect the man who is a perpetrator, they'll get their story straight and prepare an alibi. To that end, they'll probably even forge some evidence. So if you're from Hinamizawa, like you get away with whatever because everybody acts as one.
何しろ物的証拠はない上、犯人を隠匿する証言だけは後から増えていく。検察も書類送検には二の足を踏むわけです。殺人ならいざ知らず、投石で額を切った、殴られてあざができた程度だと、仮に犯人を特定できたとしても、権威不十分で送検されないことがほとんどです。
Yeah, so we've encountered this before. Like, there's this level of like solidarity and secrecy underneath the surface of Hinamizawa. Like, everybody protects everyone else. Every case, without a doubt, perpetrated by someone in Hinamizawa, but they can't identify who. Even if they could figure out who it was, they're unable to obtain enough circumstantial evidence through due process. Villagers were all extremely well informed about this, and so the malicious, vicious, and tenacious personal attacks continued.
被害者はそれでは納得できないでしょう。検察審査会に再審請求を出さないのですか？
それはですね、審査員たちがみんな厄介ごとに巻き込まれたくないと思っているからですよ。ひなみ沢関係のトラブルには首を突っ込みたがらないんです。
The inquest committee is comprised of a random selection of local residents. In the event the prosecutor fails to get a conviction, they have the power to order a retrial. It's a system designed to assert the will of the people and the actions of expert prosecutors in the legal world. In this case, however, being composed of local residents has backfired.
首を突っ込みたがらない。それはなぜです？
なんて説明すればいいんでしょう。恐れられているって言えばいいのかな。あそこはね、少し特殊なんです。
Little special there.
特殊？何か政治的なバックボーンが存在するということですか？
いえ、そういうのとは少し違うというか、まあ怖がられていると思ってください。この辺りは口では少し説明しにくいんです。ああ、そうだ。わかりやすいのがありました。
Wiping his forehead with a handkerchief, he opened a file labeled as a list of members of the Onigafuchi Defense Alliance.
鬼ヶ淵死守同盟の勢力にはですね、近隣の町々に強い影響力を持つ人間が多々おりまして、この辺をご覧いただけますか？
I wonder if we'll see any names that we realize are familiar. I looked. What I saw startled me. Prefectural and municipal assembly workers, staff members of the Chamber of Commerce, an executive of a business association, an executive of a town council association, and a PTA liaison. There were more than a few people with a lot of say, both locally and in the neighboring regions.
この界隈では、ひなみ沢のダム反対運動は皆静観しているのが普通なんです。ダムを肯定するような発言をすると、 どこでどう巡って不利益を被るかわからない。何しろ近隣の町の喉元はhinamizawa出身の人間が抑えていますからね。
検察審査員のリストは非公開でしょう。報復がされないように何らかの措置が取られているはずでは。
一応非公開でプライバシーは守られてますがね。それを管理してるのは沖宮市役所の人間、つまり地元の人間なんです。守秘義務があるとはいえ、やはり人間のつながりは分かりませんからね。hinamizawaの人間はそのあたりのつながりがことのほか強固ですから。
When you consider the obligations and duties people have to that region, the web of information thereby formed is nothing to scoff at. It's not uncommon for housewives in a neighborhood to know which kid from which house is in what grade in school, which subjects they're good at, and what vegetables they hate, among other things.
それにほら、hinamizawaと遅延の深い暴力団組織がありましてね。
I wonder if this is like the Shinozaki
これが今
clan.
回の騒動に全面バックアップしてるらしいんです。
Because we remember that, like, in Okinomiya, there's a lot of high-level members of Mion and Shion's family, the Shinozakis.
こちらが出てくるのが一番効いてるみたいですね。
暴力団、ダムの建設反対で住民と一致。どういう利害が一致するのか、読みがたいですね。
それは難しいことじゃないです。実はですね、この暴力団の組長がですね、hinamizawa村の出身なんです。村の重鎮の一人の婿養子にあたりまして。
Exactly what was this Hinamizawa? I thought it was some desolate rustic village. However, for some reason, they exerted a strong influence on the surrounding areas and had a strong sense of unity. They would protect their village by any means necessary, even if that meant resorting to violence. Chief had said that they were afraid because there were numerous influential people living there, but somehow I got the feeling that they were afraid of the village itself. There was something clearly different from what I had read in the documents in Tokyo. There's no simple residential protest against the dam. For some reason, an uneasy feeling began to nestle itself at the back of my mind. I chose the most basic way to ask my question. In other words, I directly asked what I wanted to know.
室長、これは例えば仮の話ですが。
はい。
例えば、その鬼ヶ淵主導名がダム計画を頓挫させるため、例えば要人を脅迫するようなことは考えられますか？
Chief replied immediately.
あり得るでしょう。事実、彼らは市役所や県庁、建設省の工事事務所にも押しかけ、恫喝まがいのことをしていますし、工事関係者の家族が不審者につけ回されたという事件も起こっています。
Well, that would make sense. To halt progress on the dam, they raided the construction site, destroying heavy machinery and lighting the construction office on fire. They didn't have any qualms about doing that. Threats and violence against people related to the dam would probably be no problem. But that was it. Even your everyday hoodlum could use threats and violence. However, this time it was the kidnapping of the minister's grandson, an abnormally high-level crime. Not only was pulling off the kidnapping difficult in the first place, but so was maneuvering to have the minister surrender to their demands immediately. There was no way this was the work of amateurs. Did these people have the power to enact this large of a crime? That was the heart of the matter. Was the Onigafuchi Defense Alliance an organization capable of pulling this off? In order to ask that question once again, I chose the most basic method.
例えば、政府要人の関係者を誘
We're
拐
getting
し
like
て
a
脅
little
迫。
bit closer to
なんてこと
revealing the
が
truth.
あり
Nobody
得ると思いますか？
knows that there's been a kidnapping yet outside of our little police circle. There's no way they could pull off something that big. That was the answer I most hoped for. If it was that answer, my work was as good as halfway done. Might be able to get back into time for my work to give birth. That was how it was supposed to be. Chief, without a hint of hesitation, replied,
やるかもしれません。そこの知れない連中ですから。
So, like these people are trying to defend their village, their home where their families are, and like they're being told that they have no say in the matter and they're just going to get like their entire village flooded underwater. Like, here's some money we're going to throw at you, go live somewhere else, we're going to destroy your home for the sake of the betterment of Japan. Like, I would be mad as hell too. Seemed like my work wouldn't end so simply after all. Ring.
おう、赤坂君か。ご苦労さん。 担当地域での情報収集はどうですか？
順調です。これから現地警察の公安と接触できることになりましたので、東京の調査の方はどうですか？
他の職員も順調に調査を進めているよ。でも調べる団体が星の数だからね。そんなに悠長に時間もかけられないし。
There were no new developments at this time. No matter how suspicious the Onigafuchi Defense Alliance was, if they solved the case in Tokyo, my job was done. Looked like my wishful thinking wouldn't come to pass. It's gonna be on us. It's gonna be on Akasaka. Hanging out the phone, I let my gaze drift outside the window to the valley of unfamiliar buildings.
赤坂さん、今お貸しできる車が戻ってきました。ご案内しますのでこちらへどうぞ。
あ、すみません。
He showed me the elevator to the underground parking lot where a battered sedan was waiting for me. That the steering wheel kept drifting to the left was a little concerning, but it would be enough to get me around for a while. My destination was Shishibone City, Prefecture, an area under the control of the Inogifuchi Defense Alliance. The Okonomiya police station was right on the front lines, and that's where Oishi is, I believe. Cool. Okay. So this was kind of like a slow opening, kind of reintroducing us to some of the characters and plot lines. So like whenever we start a chapter of Higurashi, we're usually like, I want to say like 1983-ish, maybe. Let's yeah, hold on. We're doing okay. So let's just pause here. So we're usually like in 1983, I think. Now it's pushed us back a couple years before. The murder of the dam construction leader hasn't even happened yet. So this will be an interesting way for us to kind of be reintroduced to the characters that we already know before like all the craziness happens, before all the killings, all the murders, all the bodies pile up. But anyway, this is just episode 1. I do plan on releasing a couple episodes a week until I find like my groove again. Stay tuned for more Higurashi. I'm going to try and put up more Phasmophobia on my channel too if you like ghost hunting, scary stuff. It's been really good to me, so check that out. And then more Halloween Overwatch. And then I have some other stuff coming this month too, so make sure you stay tuned for that. But I appreciate you tuning in, and I look forward to hearing from y'all in the comments below. Take care!